My name is Jacqueline Ramirez, and this is my alternative presentation in regards of gun control in the U.S. And although this is my first alternative presentation, I will do my best to try to show up the slides and then talk back again. So, yeah. So the definitions to mainly know is that gun control is the regulation of selling, owning, and any use of guns. And then gun violence is any harm made emotionally or physically with the gun. For instance, this is regards of school shootings, churches, concerts, basically anywhere that there has been any gun violence of any way. For example, the main shootings that happened in the U.S. was the Las Vegas shooting, the Stoneman Douglas shooting, even Columbine all the way back in 2000, the nightclub in Orlando, the Sandy Hook shooting. All these deaths, like it's so crazy to think that many people are killed throughout these shootings, but yet the government doesn't really do anything about it. Like, yes, there may be some somewhat stricter gun laws, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's easier for people to still access them. Like, it still hasn't been the same. Like, it still hasn't changed, and it should be changed. Like, there's no point in having an 18-year-old purchasing a gun at such a young age. Like, even though people believe that 18 is the right to be able to vote and to be able to drive and to be able to do all these things that, participate in government, but yet they should be able to purchase a gun. Like, I believe that, at least to own a gun, they should at least be at the age of 20 years old or 21 years old, to the point if smoking tobacco was as serious as owning a gun, then there would have been definitely a decrease in deaths by by guns overall. So my position of the issue is that the U.S. should be more restricted on guns than it already is. For example, states like Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming allow individuals to actually carry a concealed weapon without a permit. However, these are the main states that experience higher death rates by guns than any other states. Now, this is pretty ironic because, of course, people without a permit would obviously be able to carry a gun with, I'm pretty sure anybody would be able to want to carry a gun if there is no permit intact. Obviously, even if the stats show that those certain states have the highest amount of death rates by guns, then why shouldn't the government do anything about it? Like, it's stupidly crazy to see that throughout the years, gun violence has increased by a lot throughout. Like, it's I don't get why the government should keep having to hash this out, whether or not they should or shouldn't restrict gun laws. It's obviously a must in today's society because, there's throughout 2018 was probably the most that we have ever experienced gun violence, like in school shootings or in churches or in clubs or any of that matter. And now we're entering 2019 and there have already been 5 shootings throughout the U.S. And support to back up my position is that loose permit carrying, and obviously so far in 2018 there have been the most that we've ever experienced as far as mass shootings. For the loose permit carrying, all states should be able to at least carry a permit. They should be able to go through a thorough background check to make sure that their mental health is okay, to make sure that they don't have past experience with felonies or any gun violence of any of that sort. And obviously, to back up my position as well is the same thing that I've been talking about throughout the whole presentation, is that in 2018 there have been the most mass experience of gun violence than any other year. This is throughout the years, gun violence is definitely changing, and so are the weapons. Nowadays, even in the U.S., especially in California or in Arizona or in a lot of other states, there have been people that can actually be able to purchase army-piercing rounds, and even though it doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, why would people need army-piercing rounds if they were to supposedly, like, some people argue that people want guns to be able to hunt, or to be able just to carry it on their own persona because they have the right underneath the Second Amendment. However, why would anybody need army-piercing rounds? Usually army-piercing rounds are mainly sold by the military for, you know, to go into war or to be able to shoot the other enemy from afar. But in public, you know, in public now, there's no reason to be able to carry all these special bullets to be able to shoot. Like, if what are the intentions of people to buy armor-piercing rounds? Like, if people wanted the excuse of hunting, they could be easily done with regular bullets, you know, or with with pellets. I'm sorry, and armor-piercing rounds are not necessary to be able to carry around for people in society nowadays. And of course, there are going to be counter arguments in regards of this issue. So the counter arguments that people may have is that the Second Amendment, guns do not kill people. Sorry, guns do not kill people, and obviously the background checks. For the first one, Second Amendment, it is stated that in the Constitution that everybody has the right to bear arms. However, that was written back in the 1700s, and obviously back in the 1700s, the only weapons that people were allowed to carry were rifles and small guns. But now in 2019, there are submachine guns, there's armor-piercing rounds, there's, you know, a larger amount of ammo that people are able to use, so that it'll take longer for them to reload. And it's, you know, I'm pretty sure if those guns were invented back in the 1700s, the founders of the Constitution would have found out that, you know, the protection of the people are more important than having, you know, national pride, because, you know, people's health should be cared for more than the actual people, like, in believing that America is great, or that people believe that, you know, America is this great country that people should be proud of. Like, no, people should be proud of taking care of their country and not being able to carry as much guns as they can, you know. And for the second counter argument is that people believe that guns do not kill people. People kill people, you know. And although this is a good counter argument, it can be fought against for, you know, in regards of, yes, guns don't kill people. People kill people. But if there are looser gun laws, then that means people are easier to access these weapons. Therefore, people are easier to kill other people if they have a mental breakdown or if they get heated in an argument. It is just so many what ifs could occur if, you know, if there are looser gun laws in the U.S., you know. And as far as restricting gun laws, it should be possible because there are more deaths gathering every single year, and as far as the years go by, there have been an increase in numbers by about a couple 500, you know. And it's insane to be able to think that, you know, in 1 year people could have that mentality of just shooting one another at a school or in a public area, killing innocent people that they don't even know. And it definitely needs to change. And as far as the background checks should be able to be intact because, you know, it allows the government to figure out whether or not if that individual should own a weapon. However, people believe that with background checks, it kind of infringes with the Second Amendment because it's invasion of their privacy. You know, not everybody should be, at least not. People believe that the government should not be able to check on their mental health status or their personal like medical history, in fact, because it's invasion of the privacy. And why should the government even be able to check into like personal information like that? Because either way, they are protected with the Second Amendment. However, again, with the Second Amendment, the Constitution was written back in the 1700s, so it's out of date in regards of updating the Constitution. And then with the fallacies that may occur with these with this argument is the non sequitur, sorry if I said that wrong, appeal to emotion, and faulty analogy. With the non sequitur, It is. It means that because something happens, you believe this, or just because you believe this, you have to believe this, and it's kind of like a chain reaction. So for the non sequitur, an example of that would be being like voting, for example. As far as the gun control, people may believe that I'm not going to vote for Republicans because Republicans are murderers, because they agree with the Second Amendment, and they believe that owning a gun is more important than anyone's health. There's that for the non sequitur. For the appeal to emotion, after the Sandy Hook, no, not after the Sandy Hook, I'm sorry. After the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, there have been several seniors that actually conducted a movement called Never Again, which kind of corresponds with the debates that later on happened down the road with senators and representatives stating how their experience went, that their experience in the actual high school shooting affected them emotionally, and how they don't want this to ever happen again in other high schools, because people, or at least children and teachers, should be able to go to school to either educate or to actually get an education, and shouldn't have to be able to worry about whether or not an unstable person or unstable student or anybody in general would be bringing a gun onto campus and actually doing harm to others. For faulty analogy, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, I just can't say it right. For that one, there's an article that I actually read saying that if a good example of this one would be that if Australia has good gun laws, then that means that the U.S. should try to implement those laws as well, to make sure that gun laws are more restricted than Austria, because Austria has less deaths now because of the restricted gun laws. However, there is a kind of a problem with this one, because Austria and the U.S. are two separate countries. They both have different different laws, different constitutions, different overall. They have a different system, and just because it works in Austria doesn't clearly mean that it would work in the system of the United States. It just what I do believe, though, is that the U.S. should try to restrict gun laws in regards of having more thorough background checks to make sure exactly what guns individuals are buying, and especially having a restriction of what age people are allowed to buy. Like, if, for example, if a person was 18 and they wanted to buy a weapon, then they should at least the maximum would be buying a handgun. Like, there's no point of having an 18-year-old buying like a big giant ass assault rifle and being able to say, oh, I'm going to go hunting, because you're only 18, and you should be able to ask a guardian for that, or a guardian should be able to say that, hey, like, I shouldn't have to buy arm and piercing rounds to be able to hunt a deer, or to be able to have my national pride into shooting something, as far as like going to the desert or something like that, because arm and piercing rounds are not necessary in today's society. They can be seen as very, very dangerous in regards, like, if someone were to have a big mental breakdown, they could automatically use arm and piercing rounds to be able to shoot through cars, through doors. This could be extremely harmful in case if a school shooting were to happen again, and the shooter just used arm and piercing rounds. Like, they could go through windows, go through doors. Like, just thinking about it, like, the deaths would be so much higher, and these numbers definitely need to be able to change throughout the next couple of years. So, with all their arguments and the fallacies being said, that is my presentation as far as having gun control in the U.S. Thank you.